Welcome to Life Point TV. I'm Pastor Del Phillips. I'm your host for our Life Point broadcast, Your Path to Real Life. I want you to join me in the fifth chapter of the Gospel of St. John. John chapter 5, verse 5 is where we're going to begin reading. Um, and I want you to pay attention closely to some of the details here. John chapter 5, verse 5. And it says, and a certain man was there which had an infirmity 38 years. Verse 6 says, when Jesus saw him lie or laying and knew that he had been a long time in that case, underline that, knew that he had been a long time in that case, he saith unto him, wilt thou be made whole? I want to talk about whole life, complete life, uh, allowing God to finish the work of life or finish his purpose in our life. It is very possible that for many of us, we have settled, we have reduced ourselves to accepting only a part or portion of life when indeed God intends for us to have complete life or whole life. We have dealt with this subject matter to a certain extent in some of our previous teachings and conversations. I want to uh, drill down into an additional aspect of this same concept using this passage as a platform. Verse 5 indicates that Jesus identifies a certain man in a place called Bethesda, the pool of Bethesda, which is uh, in the city, in the city quadrant of Jerusalem, if you will. It's a part of the it's a part of the makeup of Jerusalem. In that part of the country, you will find many what they would call healing springs or pools of water that naturally collect, naturally are uh, uh, populated with water that has the medicinal impact to change the physical improprieties or disparities in a person's life. And Jesus sees a man at the pool, and the text says that he has had this issue for 38 years. It says of Jesus that he himself, although Jesus had not been there in human form for 38 years, Jesus identified that he knew that the man had been in this condition for a long period of time. And it causes Jesus to ask a significant question that I want to push upon those who are viewing this program today. Will thou be made whole? Do you really want whole life? Are you going to continue to accept your present status, knowing that you're living life diminished, diluted, uh, greatly descended from what God has made possible and made available to you? Do you want whole life? Uh, in in our emphasis on life in on this program, it goes without saying that no matter how much I'm teaching and praying and encouraging you about life, the first movement towards accepting and embracing life is your desire to want life. You and I, we have to want whole life. We have to want to be made whole. Beyond or without that driving desire, life just simply doesn't happen. It doesn't happen because God is it doesn't happen only because God is the giver of life, because he distributes life, because he makes life available. Life in us only begins when we receive it. We don't receive it until we uh, believe it. And we won't believe it unless we are driven to possess it, to have it. It's something that we have to become hungry and thirsty for. Watch this. Righteousness does not just happen. Righteousness, right relationship with God does not just happen. Jesus himself teaches that he that hungers and thirsts after righteousness shall be filled. Those who don't have an appetite for righteousness, they're not going to be filled. Only those who are thirsty, hungry, watch this, starving, craving for righteousness. It is the same application concerning life. You have to want it. We have to be driven by it, hungry and thirsty to have life. Jesus says, will you be made whole? We're going to continue in this study passage when we come back in our next program. And until then, this is Pastor Del Phillips encouraging you to stay on the path that leads to real life.